Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
I'd like to begin this episode with a trigger warning. We're going to be discussing President Trump's history with sexual abuse and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I'll be playing very disturbing audio of Trump objectifying and making fun of women. Also, this episode is going to be dealing with some very disturbing details that are inappropriate for younger children to hear. So, if this topic may be distressing or triggering, please listen with caution or feel free to skip this episode. In this episode, we're eventually going to get into the news over the weekend related to the Epstein files. Despite their promises to release the Epstein files, the Trump administration suddenly went back on their word. There's a lot here that needs to be untangled, including Trump's treatment of women, evangelical scripts about sexuality, conspiracy theories, and the Epstein story. So to set the context, I want to go back to the original audio of the Access Hollywood tape that was released a month before the 2016 presidential election. The conversation in this audio took place in 2005 between Donald Trump and Billy Bush, who was a co-host for Access Hollywood at the time. But the tape wasn't released until October 2016, weeks before Trump was to face Hillary Clinton in the presidential race. In this audio, Trump and Bush are discussing Trump's behavior toward Nancy O'Dell, who was a co-host of Access Hollywood at the time. Then later in the audio, they're met by Ariane Zucker, an actress who was there to escort them to the set of the show Days of Our Lives.
And she used to be great. She's still very beautiful. I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and she was married.
That's huge news there.
No, Nancy.
Yeah.
No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took out furniture. I moved on her like a but I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hottest in the purple.
Whoa!
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored!
Whoa!
Oh, my man! Wait, you gotta look at me when you get out of your
Remember who
legs.
sets this up.
That is very...
You give me the thumbs
Look
up.
at you. You are a pig.
Thumbs up. You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
else off first? Yeah, let me.
It's very
You
funny.
gotta give me the thumbs up.
All right, you and I will walk in. Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her. It's
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
whatever you want.
Grab them by the I can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
Come on, shorty.
Oh, nice legs, huh?
Oof, get out of the way, honey. Oh, that's good legs. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Trump, how
nice
are
seeing
you?
you.
Pleasure
Terrific.
to meet you.
Terrific. You know Billy Bush?
How are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing,
Very
Ariane?
good.
I'm doing very well, thank you. Are you ready to be a soap star?
We're ready. Let's go. Make me a soap star.
How about a little hug for the Donald? He just got off the
Would
bus.
you like a little hug,
Okay,
darling?
absolutely.
A
Melania
little
said
hug for
this
the
was
bushy.
okay.
I just got off the bus.
Bushy.
There we go.
When this tape was released, I was still a conservative Republican, but I was in the beginning stages of a spiritual journey that would open my heart towards self and neighbor. So while I wanted the Republicans in general to win in 2016, I couldn't vote for Trump. At the time, however, I had no idea how complicit conservative evangelicals were in sexual abuse cover-ups, or how they'd resonate with Trump. On October 7th, 2016, Trump released a statement saying, "This was locker room banter, a private conversation that took place many years ago. Bill Clinton has said far worse to me on the golf course, not even close. I apologize if anyone was offended." That week, I attended a business meeting with other conservative Christian business owners when a woman in attendance asked the group of Christian men if this is how men talk in the locker room. I started to say no, but all the other men piped in and immediately said yes, and were laughing about it. I was very caught off guard. What we all began to learn over the next 5 years has been how sexually entitled white evangelical men are. And this sexual entitlement isn't simply about individual instances of abuse. It goes to their most basic scripts about men, women, and sexuality. Sociologist Samuel Perry writes in his book, Addicted to Lust, Pornography in the Lives of Conservative Protestants, that evangelical women who watch porn experience a double shame, because not only do they experience shame from watching porn, but from, quote, sinning against their gender, sinning like a man, unquote. In other words, there are embedded scripts in their theology about men being virtually uncontrollable sexual creatures, and about women being almost non-sexual. Sheila Gregoire, who is the author of The Great Sex Rescue, wrote on Threads earlier this year about a man who finds that when he's out in public, he does immediately focus on women's body parts or imagine them naked. She said while the man agreed with her that bouncing your eyes is avoiding the problem, he felt it was necessary in the interim for men who are healing. One of Gregoire's responses was, if men can't be out in public without causing shame to women, they shouldn't be out in public. So how are evangelical men encouraged to be in public? Listen to these words from C.J. Mahaney in a sermon jam someone created from one of Mahaney's sermons.
I wanted you to hear from some men in the church. Different guys were students. And so they would take a section to describe what it was like to be on campus every day, prior to transitioning to what it was like to be in church. One writes, each and every day on campus is a battle. Listen carefully, ladies. This is not an aberration. This is not an unusual testimony. This is the norm. Each and every day on campus is a battle against my sin, a battle against temptation, a battle against my depraved mind. Every morning, I have to cry out for mercy, strength, and a renewed conviction to flee youthful lusts. The Spirit is faithful to bring me the renewal I need to prepare me to do war against my sin, yet the temptation still exists. I'm thankful God has created me to be attracted to women. However, campus is a loaded minefield. There are girls everywhere, and it's guaranteed that I will pass some attractive girls as I walk in between classes. I either have to be actively engaging my mind and my spirit to praying, quoting scripture, listening to worship music, or simply looking at the sidewalk to make it through unscathed. Many days it takes all four to be safe. The thing that women do not seem to fully grasp is that the temptation towards lust does not stop for us as men. It is continual. It is aggressive. It does all it can to lead men down to death. Sometimes, when I see a girl provocatively dressed, I'll say to myself, she probably doesn't even know that 101 guys are going to devour her in their minds today. But then again, maybe she does. There's not a man I know that doesn't struggle in some way with lust. If they had any idea what went through guys' minds, it would probably vastly change the way they dress. There is a constant battle going on as I'm talking with her. Communication becomes more difficult because as I'm trying to listen to her, I am also trying to fight temptation. I also think some ladies just aren't aware that even little things can distract guys a lot. Showing even a little part of their stomach.
So what do evangelical men do for being so impossibly turned on all the time? They turn to their wives as their only hope. In the popular book Every Man's Battle, Winning the War on Sexual Temptation One Victory at a Time, Stephen Arterburn and Fred Stoker write, quote, "Your wife can be a methadone-like fix when your temperature is rising. Then later, once he tells you he's going cold turkey, be like a merciful vial of methadone for him." In a further cementing of their sexual entitlement scripts, they teach a concept called obligation sex, which essentially says that evangelicals who are married are biblically obligated to give their partner sex whenever their partner wants it. So when you combine that with the idea that men are uncontrollably sexual and that women aren't that sexual at all, the result is that men see and take women. In this script, men are essentially the emperors of women. Men are the ones to whom women must submit and to whom women pose a danger. Now imagine how an entitled billionaire like Trump would treat women out in public, with this same emperor of women mindset. Here are the accusations brought by Tasha Dixon, former Miss Arizona.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him, get his attention. Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him. I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
And lest anyone question whether or not her words are credible, here is Trump himself admitting to it on the Howard Stern show.
And you're probably, I would say, the greatest judge of beauty on this planet. In fact, I would create a TV show for you where all you did was just judge women.
Now, that may be the best idea of all.
It's a simple thing. It's a half hour, and we strip it out all over the country.
I would say I'm the all-time judge.
You own this pageant. You go over, you're meeting the girls and stuff. One of them comes up to you and says, Mr. Trump, you're a very sexy man.
You're a beautiful man. You have fantastic hair.
Well, you're a powerful man. Right? You're a powerful man.
Right.
I want to sleep with you. Now, you're not the type that would say no.
I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right. No, but I mean, you see a beautiful woman, you want to have that. You're a guy who likes to have everything, right?
Well, couldn't that be construed, however, as
conflict?
Yes.
Well, I don't see it as a conflict.
It could be a conflict of interest, but it's the kind of thing you worry about later.
Oh, I see.
You tend to think about the conflict a little bit later on.
The question is, how can it not be construed?
And,
well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything
is
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Remember, these situations aren't consensual relationships between adults. It's Trump using his position of power in order to barge in on women who haven't consented in order to inspect their bodies when they're changing clothes. He's quite literally seeing and taking. And it's not simply other women that he treats this way. Listen to how he talks about his own daughter.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
It's
She's
unbelievable.
tall. She's almost 6 feet tall.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that. My daughter, Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
Yeah, she's hot.
With all this in mind, we come to the E. Jean Carroll case. E. Jean Carroll is a journalist who wrote a piece for the New York Magazine on June 21st, 2019, titled Hideous Men, in which she accused Trump of sexually assaulting her sometime either late in 1995 or early 1996. So she filed 2 suits against Trump, one in 2019 and another in 2022. Here is audio of Trump's deposition video dated October 19th, 2022.
And again, this has become very famous in this video. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
Anyone listening to the audio or watching his posture in the video can tell how entitled he is and how little he cares. And while the jury did not find Trump guilty of rape, they did find him guilty of sexual abuse. Some of the confusion here has to do with the technicalities in New York's definition of rape legally that may not match up with what the rest of us would define, through common sense. In the end, Trump was ordered to pay $83.3 million. And this brings us to the Jeffrey Epstein story. Epstein began his career as a private school teacher and then began working in investment banking. After starting his firm in 1982, he began working exclusively with billionaires, and the wealth he earned led to purchasing real estate all around the world, including a private Caribbean island. In 2005, accusations began to emerge of Epstein offering underage girls money in exchange for sex. He also was accused of raping 14-year-olds. Then Epstein reached a deal with U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who became Trump's labor secretary, which led to him only having to serve 13 months in prison on state prostitution charges. He also had to register as a sex offender. In 2018, dozens more allegations came out. Epstein was indicted with sex trafficking underage girls, and while he was in custody at New York's Metropolitan Correctional Center, he was found in his cell and pronounced dead at a local hospital, with his death ruled a suicide. Of course, due to Epstein's connections with powerful people, questions began to arise, understandably, about whether Epstein really committed suicide, or if someone may have had him killed to prevent information from coming out against them. And there were other strange details surrounding his death as well, such as his cellmate moving to a new cell the day before, 2 guards not being there to watch him, and security footage just happening to be cut during the time of the death. Along with the growing questions came a turning toward conspiracy theories, including the theory that Epstein had a list that named his powerful clients. This world of conspiracies had been growing for years among those on the far right, and many of them center on accusations that the Democrats run a worldwide pedophilia ring. According to one theory, the Democrats were running a human trafficking and child sex ring out of the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria in Washington, D.C. Far-right journalists and influencers who were pushing the idea of prosecuting Hillary Clinton due to her private email server started spreading the theories online. Then the owner and staff of the Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria began receiving death threats. And then a North Carolina man who was hearing all of this online traveled to the restaurant and opened fire on a door in order to break the lock and free the children, only to find out it was essentially a mop closet. From there, a conspiracy theory called Frazzle Drip began to spread about Hillary Clinton committing a ritual murder of a child. And another theory has spread among these groups that has to do with a process called adrenochrome, which is promoted by the likes of actor Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ movie. Here's Caviezel himself explaining it.
I'm not for trafficking of children. I want to stop it. It's just what they do to children. Children are nothing more than like a cow. It's already past the drug trade, okay? We're at that point right now. And if we let our little ones continue to be slaughtered, boy, there's going to be a judgment on this world, and especially our country. Because they're pulling kids out of the darkest recesses of hell right now, in dumbs and all kinds of places. The adrenochroming of children, essentially, you have adrenaline in your body. I'll just simplify it. And when you are scared, you produce adrenaline. If you're an athlete, you get in the fourth quarter, you have adrenaline that comes out of you. If a child knows he's going to die, his body will secrete this adrenaline, and they have a lot of terms that they use. It's the worst horror I've ever seen, is screaming alone, even if I never, ever saw it. It's beyond, and these people that do it, there'll be no mercy for them. A lot of people that are involved in it all over the world that are in this. And many of these people are very famous.
In a piece I wrote for Baptist News Global on May 24th, 2024, titled, "The Harrison Butker Story is So Much Weirder Than You Know," I interviewed Basil Dannenbaum, who told me, quote, "I know a lot of people respect him because they associate it with Christ, but I find him very disturbing. I recall one occasion hearing that Jim Caviezel alleged that the Clintons consume the adrenal fluid of babies that are aborted, and that is how they stay so powerful and so vibrant. Like others in the radical Catholic movement, I suspect he believes the fat from the aborted fetuses melted down and reconstituted in the candles that are used in satanic black masses. I've heard this radical conspiracy in those circles more than once." These QAnon conspiracies are a big part of the reason why so many right-wing Christians focus on child trafficking. You'd think it was out of concern for the kids because this is an awful problem. But it's part of a baseless world of right-wing QAnon conspiracy theories against the Democrats. And then they can cast themselves as the heroes coming to the rescue against the Democrats. The MAGA movement is convinced that there has to be evidence out there that all these Democrats are trafficking children. So the idea of Epstein having a list of powerful people who committed these crimes these globalists is extremely intriguing for them. This is why during the 2024 election, a lot of the talk was about how if they could get Trump elected, then they could have the Epstein list released. But there are two problems here. One, is there even a list? And two, what if Trump is on it? We've already established that Trump brags about violating women. In Trump's case, Carol isn't the only one who brought allegations. There have been at least 25 public accusations against Trump of rape and of kissing or groping without consent. And again, none of this should come as a surprise since we've all heard audio of Trump bragging about it. But what about the list? Trump has long stoked the fires of conspiracy theorists to garner votes for himself, so he had no problem going along with the Epstein conspiracy theories leading up to the 2024 election.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing.
Perhaps it's just me, but he seems a little uncomfortable to me here. He doesn't jump all over the opportunity to go after Epstein, like he often does against his enemies. Instead, he uses words like interesting and probably. Later, he says, I guess. He said he would take a look at it. And then in this instance, he changes the subject to Kennedy. So then when Trump is elected in 2024, he starts putting these conspiracy theorists in charge of our government. This was the current FBI director, Kash Patel, in 2023, prior to the election.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
Now Patel himself is the director of the FBI. So where is Epstein's Black Book? And what else might the FBI have access to? According to these right-wing conspiracy theorists in charge of our government, the Democrats were keeping all of the evidence from the public. But now they were going to release it all. Here's a montage that was posted online by Zateo of the buildup from Trump administration officials about releasing all the evidence.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would.
Release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we are going to countermand missing children and exploited children going forward.
Just last week, the president's excellent pick for FBI Director Kash Patel vowed to work with me in releasing the Epstein records and breaking apart the trafficking rings that harm countless women and children across our country.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that.
All this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York.
Yep.
So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Kash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. It's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she has made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case as well.
So Pam Bondi tells Sean Hannity that there's a truckload of evidence that's been delivered. What are some of the things they might find in that evidence? Here's author Michael Wolff sharing a story about Trump and Epstein that he suspects might be involved in that evidence.
And I've said before that
that Epstein used to bring out this set of pictures. There were about a dozen snapshots. And among them, there are at least three that I remember, two of topless girls sitting in Trump's lap around Epstein's swimming pool, and then one with a stain on the front of Trump's pants with three or four girls laughing and pointing at it. So I have seen those pictures.
So what's your best guess as to where they are?
Well, I'm my best guess is that Epstein kept them in the safe. A safe was emptied out by the FBI. Where are those pictures?
Shortly after Trump was sworn in, Attorney General Pam Bondi released a set of flight logs, along with names of people who flew with Epstein. And Trump's name appeared 7 times on these logs. In fact, Epstein said he was Trump's closest friend for 10 years. And Trump said that Epstein was a, quote, terrific guy, and added, quote, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, unquote. Then when Elon Musk had his falling out with Trump last month, he posted on X, quote, time to drop the really big bomb. @Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT, unquote. Despite all of these connections to Trump, Pam Bondi said the Epstein files were on her desk for review. Photos were released of Trump officials carrying notebooks titled The Epstein Files, Phase 1. Still, far-right activists began getting excited, claiming the Democrats were shaking in their boots, because, remember, the Democrats are supposedly part of a child sex ring that utilizes pizzerias, takes babies' adrenal fluid to keep themselves young and powerful, and melts aborted fetuses into candles for satanic rituals. MAGA can hardly contain themselves. They've been laughed at for years for being conspiracy theorists, making stuff up. But now they've got Trump back in the White House and their own conspiracy theorists in charge of the departments that could provide all the evidence. And then all of a sudden, after all this buildup, a memo was released last week that says, quote, this systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, unquote. So what does MAGA do with this nothing burger? After all the conspiratorial buildup? Here's conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' response.
Well, I woke up this morning and turned my phone on, and there were hundreds of text messages saying, oh my God, the DOJ just put out a letter that I know you've all seen now, saying there is no Epstein client list, there never was any blackmail operation, Epstein killed himself, and the investigation's closed. So everybody wants to know what I think. Well, I know what's going on. And so I'll tell you. Trump had 2 ways to go with all of this. He could prosecute all of these incredibly prominent people, household names, or they could use the information to blackmail the deep state. So if Trump was to actually prosecute this, it would bring down the CIA. This is the swamp winning. The question is Trump's DOJ actually using this to control the deep state? Or are they just so overwhelmed by it, they are tapping out? You wouldn't say all that if you were planning to cover it up from the beginning. So something has changed along the way, and it all points towards this being used to blackmail the deep state. You don't then have Kash Patel and Bongino like deer in the headlights looking like they're hostages saying, oh no, we've seen, everything, there's nothing there. No, he killed himself and put out this stupid video from outside the cell bay with cops dragging trash cans around going, look, this proves he killed himself. You don't do all that unless it's part of a deal with the system that you've got to go out and say that so that you're not complicit in the lie. And that's why they look like they're being tortured because I think both men have had integrity, and I think you see them losing their souls on live TV. This is going to be an unmitigated disaster. I don't know how they got Trump and the DOJ to do this, because the public is not buying it. No one is buying it. So I never saw any evidence of Trump involved in any of the stuff that came out. It was all fake, the fake Jane Does, all the crap, you know, E. Jean Carroll, the crazy leftist cat lady, all of it. So now by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. I mean, it's just, you cannot see it any other way, because I have integrity. And, you know, I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out. And, you know, the left, they're all complicit. They're openly promoting pedophilia. We know they're pure evil. And they'll think it's all funny. Oh, look, Alex is sad. MAGA's tearing itself apart. Worse than what they've done. Pam Bondi, all of it. All those videos are saying, yeah, she's seen the videos. It's all coming out. And then now it doesn't exist. I mean, what? 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 Damn it.
So Jones' response is essentially to deny that Trump has any involvement in the sexual violence toward women, to demonize any women who accuse him, and to then further the conspiracy theory by making the Trump administration complicit in a deep state cover-up. Similarly, Steve Bannon said if they don't release the files, then MAGA is going to lose its supporters and the GOP will lose up to 40 seats in the midterm elections. And General Mike Flynn said, quote, "Please understand the Epstein affair is not going away," in a tweet that he directed specifically to Donald Trump. So amidst all the blowback, Pam Bondi and Trump himself addressed a question from the media.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the staff?
Yeah, sure. If
could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
When everyone was asking Trump prior to the election about releasing info related to Epstein, Trump used words like, "I guess." But suddenly, now that they're not releasing any info, he seems quite upset when pressed about it. In fact, he's so upset that he asks why people are still talking about it. And that's not all. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "Because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interests of our great country, I am giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship." So suddenly, all of the attention's away from Epstein, and everyone's talking about Trump threatening to revoke citizenship. Or so perhaps he hopes, because everyone kept talking about Epstein as well. But this attack on Rosie O'Donnell is nothing new. Here's some audio from back in 2006 where he was going after her.
Well, Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. Rosie attacked me personally because I was very happy when her talk show failed. The other thing that failed, and this was a real monster, and everybody was suing her, was her magazine. Her magazine called Rosie was a total disaster. So I loved it. I gloat over it. I think it's wonderful because I like to see bad people fail. Rosie failed. I'm happy about it. She's basically a disaster. Well, she called me a snake oil salesman. And, coming from Rosie, that's pretty low because when you look at her and when you see the mind is weak. I don't see it. I don't get it. I never understood. How does she even get on television? I believe Barbara made a terrible mistake putting her on, and I think Barbara's probably paying a big price. If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie. I mean, I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired. We're all a little chubby, but Rosie's just worse than most of us. But it's not the chubbiness. Rosie is a very unattractive person, both inside and out. Rosie's a person that's very lucky to have her girlfriend. And she better be careful or I'll send one of my friends over to pick up her girlfriend. Why would she stay with Rosie if she had another choice? She's trying to use ABC and The View to get even with me. But with me, we fight back. I'll probably sue Rosie because she doesn't tell the facts. As an example, I'm worth many billions of dollars. Now, she said I was bankrupt. I never went bankrupt. So probably I'll sue her because it would be fun. I'd like to take some money out of her fat ass pockets. I actually think they ought to look at her whole life and see where she's coming from because I think she's got some very deep-seated problems. Perhaps it should be Rosie that goes to rehab. Rosie is a loser.
So I think what Trump is doing here with this Rosie strategy is what Bob Inglis referred to at the Principal's First event that I covered a few weeks ago, where he said that whenever Trump gets in hot water, he likes to respond by throwing out some kind of distraction out there. And in this instance, he goes back to a personal vendetta he has against Rosie O'Donnell that he's had for decades. And he attacks her physical appearance, but there's something personal going on here. And it's quite ironic, given the audio that we've played here, to hear him, of all people, talking about her having deep-seated issues that someone should look into. Then, with the distraction not working, because people are still focusing on the Epstein stuff, Trump decides to go on Truth Social, and he posts this. "What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. No matter how much success we have had, securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. And we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents of Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she is looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way, and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for attention to this matter. Well, unfortunately for Trump, that's not true that nobody cares about this, because a bunch of MAGA people care about it, and it's ruining their entire conspiracy theory. It's also interesting that they say there's no files, and then all of a sudden Trump is claiming that the files were written by Obama, Hillary, Comey, and Brennan in the Biden administration. So Kash Patel comes out, and there's rumors beginning to swirl about administration officials, including Patel, resigning. But then eventually Kash Patel comes out and says, quote, "The conspiracy theories just aren't true. Never have been. It's an honor to serve the President of the United States, @real Donald Trump, and I'll continue to do so as long as he calls on me." There's a lot to sort through here, and a lot we don't know. But I think there are a few things we can be relatively sure of. One is that we don't have to give any credence to ridiculous conspiracy theories about pizzerias and satanic rituals. Another is that the people involved in the story are likely to be consistent throughout the story. The conspiracy theorists are continuing to develop their conspiracy theories. And what's especially frustrating in all of this is that despite the conspiracy theories, there are children being trafficked in the world today. And there are powerful men like Epstein in the world who are hurting them. We can't allow the conspiracy theories on the right about the Democrats to keep us from dealing with those who are guilty of harming women and children. Which brings us to Trump. He's being quite consistent in all this in the way he talks about women, giving them value based on their physical appearance, positioning himself as their perfect judge, taking advantage of them, sexually assaulting them, dismissing them if he doesn't find them attractive, and then bragging about it. So when women accuse him of the very things he's bragged about, it doesn't make any sense to dismiss what they're saying. Maybe Epstein created a list. Maybe he didn't. Maybe Trump was on it if there was one. Maybe he wasn't. Some of that may be speculation. But Trump has assaulted women. And white evangelicals whose denominations are overrun with sexual abuse cover-ups have helped him cover it up and have given him power, just like they've given their pastors power. Now they're caught between their conspiracies and their cover-ups. And it's up to the rest of us to hold them accountable without getting caught up in either of those ourselves. And we also need to hold evangelicals accountable when they do not offer any kind of a counter-narrative to these sexual scripts of entitlement, but when they have their own theologies that sacralize male power over women, that call women threats, and that obligate women to serve men. So perhaps to close this episode, the last word should ironically go to Donald Trump Jr. himself. He posted on July 8th, 2023, quote, "Show us all the Epstein client list now. Why would anyone protect those scumbags? Ask yourselves this question daily, and the answer becomes very apparent." That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode on Thursday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.